Hello? Come on in. Okay, folks. Good morning.
Good morning, Rabbi.
Welcome, welcome. Okay. Give a brief moment. Welcome aboard, everybody. We'll start in a moment. All right, folks. Oh, sorry, give me just one brief second. I'm just online teaching right now. No problem. Do well. All righty. Good morning. Good Vach. A good week to everybody. Thank you for joining Mystical Teachings from the Tanya, Rabbi Ronnie Fine. And it's a privilege and a pleasure to share with you on a new week for new blessings that we need. Let's say hello to Darren in the Philippines. Good evening. And Yan in Mexico, Shavua Tov. Simcha is with us in Florida. Welcome. And in Indonesia, Adam. Welcome. John is with us in North Carolina. Gina in Calgary. Erica in Norway, good afternoon. Michael is with us in Crown Heights. That's in Brooklyn. Clem in Brisbane. Good evening to you. Andrew is with us in Springfield, New Jersey. Diane in London, Ontario. Welcome. Anna in Budapest, Hungary. Shavua Tov. Jay is not certain where, but shalom. Ali in Florida. Boker Tov. Rena in Colorado. Good morning. Dina in Brooklyn. Shalom. Katie in Texas. Good morning. Deborah in Kitchener, Ontario, where the sun is shining. All right, beautiful. Good afternoon to Benny in Israel. Oh, okay, wow. Yeah. Cindy in Florida, Boker Tov, Batya and David in Montreal, welcome. Tony, yes, thank you. And Mordechai, good afternoon to wherever you are. In Toronto, Elisa's with us. In Norway, Redun, I hope I pronounced that right. Thank you for joining. Tim in Texas, welcome. In Germany, Tatana, I don't know if I got that right, or Charlotte, thank you for joining. Ruth and Jay, already asking questions. All right. Adam in Fort Myers. We have Marjan, we have Andra, Noah, Sina, and we have on Instagram also Sophia in California. Shiran, I think it is, if I'm not mistaken. Esty and Nat and AK, I don't know if I got that right. Violet, Chaya, Reggie, and a few others that I can't make up the names. In any case, welcome. Since it's Sunday, of course, our teachings are going to be into two parts. The first part from yesterday's teachings of Shabbos, of Tanya, and today's teachings. And with that, we're going to conclude the 49th chapter. So, continuing the thought of a reciprocal love. Reciprocal love means that which I'm shown to me, I should reciprocate back. Just as the water reflects the face that I show it, that's what's reflected back. Of course, a mirror. So likewise, what God reflects to us, we should reflect back to Him, is where we're going with this. So we explained previously, God is Ein Sof, He's infinite. And the angels above, the souls above, in the spiritual realm, are much closer to Him, much more aware of Him. And yet, God puts aside all of everything above, everything that has a spiritual, infinite nature, for me down here, for you down here, for us down here. So, figuratively speaking, He sets aside His, so to speak, natural agenda, which would be the spiritual realm, that of an infinite nature, for a world and people in a human condition that is removed from Him, in a place of darkness, because He wants a relationship with us. So He puts all of aside in order that we can connect to Him and have a relationship with Him. So what should we do to reflect and reciprocate back? Is we put aside our agenda. He puts aside His agenda, we put aside our agenda, in order that we should connect and have a relationship with Him, is the notion over here. The Alter Rebbe now, what he does is shows that this is actually in the daily prayers that we recite. For those who are familiar with the prayers of the Siddur, so after Baruch Hu, we have what's called two blessings before the Shema, and they're called Birchas Kriya Shema, the blessings of the Shema. Shema is, of course, Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God. The Lord is one, the oneness of God that we speak about. And then from there going to the Ahavtas Hashem, to love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your might. So to bring us to that love, we preface two blessings before that are called the blessings of the Shema. So the Alter Rebbe asks a question, and that question is, those two blessings, why are we calling them the blessings of the Shema when they seemingly have nothing to do about the Shema? They have nothing to do about specifically as a prelude, as a preface, as a preparation for the oneness of God, and to love God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your might. So why is it called that? So different commentators ask this question. And the Alter Rebbe explains the reason is because we should love God. When we say with all your heart, it says b'chol lavavcha. For those who understand Hebrew, it should say libcha. So it means with two hearts. Love God with two hearts. Well, we have a heart of the godly soul, and we have a heart of the animal soul. So the animal soul naturally loves what? That which is close to it. What's close to it? Material life. I mean, not just material life. Relationships like your spouse, your children. They're close to you in your heart. Not in your divine heart necessarily. It's just an instinctual thing that there is. Your heart is attached to your spouse, is attached to your children. And what the Alter Rebbe is saying over here is that's nature. That's the nature of the heart, to have that attachment. By the way, if you don't feel that attachment, that means there's something unhealthy in just the natural, instinctual, human dimension of your life that you need help with. But we're not going there right now. I mean, that's natural. It should feel that way. Now, does that mean you feel that way all the time? You know, spouses have their difficulties between them, but this is the natural and what it should be. But that's the human condition. And the Alter Rebbe says we need to live choose to live, if we so choose, in a divine condition. And that divine condition means that you actually renounce love only based on human need. To renounce that. First of all, question, why should you renounce that? Because human love is very limited. It's not the ultimate form of love. And if you want to have a relationship with God, so you want to have not only a divine love to God, but ultimately that will express itself in having not limited to a human love, but to have a divine love for your spouse and children who are hopefully closest to you. Now, what does that mean exactly? So let me give a story that we've told before that will hopefully give us a little insight what that means, human love versus more of a divine love. So human love is you feel and you want to embrace the person because you feel a closeness to that person. So it's really all about you and your feelings. And again, there's a greater than just about having those feelings that you feel in the moment. So the Rebbe Rashab, the fifth Lubavitcher Rebbe, he was learning at night with the teacher of his son. And this is back in Russia in a small little apartment. So his son, who was about 6 years old at the time, was sleeping on a cot in the corner of the room, and they were learning on the other side. And the teacher says to the Rebbe Rashab, says, look at his beautiful face. You could see the purity of thought in his dreams on his face. Now, any parent hears that, what are you going to do? Well up in a love to your child, right? Overwhelmed. As you see that, and how true it was. And he was about to go and give his child a kiss on the forehead out of the natural feeling of love. And he held himself back, and he sat then at that moment and wrote a Hasidic discourse. 5 years later, on this child's birthday, 11 years old, he gave him the manuscript that he had written 5 years earlier, and he said, here, this is a Hasidic kiss. And he told him the story, what happened. What does that mean? Because we all have a human need to be bonded and connected, so that human need, when that comes, we want to connect. So he wanted to give that kiss on the forehead of his son. But what did he do? He transformed it, or he elevated it to a divine kiss, what he called a Hasidic kiss. In other words, it wasn't just about expressing his feelings, but it was now about a deeper, more profound bond, giving something to the one who you are bonded and connected to, not just taking from them in a sense of giving the kiss that makes you feel wonderful in that moment. So that kind of love is about you. And that's human. That's natural. That's about you. Right? What did he do? He elevated it, transformed it into not about him, about the child, and gifted the child when he was ready to appreciate the gift at 11 years old, I guess, with a Hasidic discourse. But then he expressed the love by writing something for him, a teachings that would be specifically gifted given to him. That's a real expression of love, because it's about the beloved and not about me and my feelings to express love. So this is what we're talking about over here. We all have that human need to express our love, to feel the love. That's human. If one wants to have a relationship with God, then we will put aside that kind of love and not allow us to be merely dictated by that, but to have something, a greater love. How? Because from the love of God, that will be able to give us then also a deeper love to our loved ones. And ultimately, it will express itself in not what I need now to give you a kiss, but rather what you need. The child didn't need the kiss at that time. Aside from the fact he was asleep, obviously, right? But what he did need, because that's what, father understood, and the child appreciated later, is a Hasidic kiss in the form of a Hasidic discourse. A mother gives child food. Now, some mothers, they give the food because they like this kind of food. I figure, if I like it, well, my kid's going to like it. Yeah, but the child's told mother, I don't like that. But the mother likes it, and, she loves it, so she's making it for her, so make it for the child too. And here's my love. Well, maybe not. But knowing what the child needs, not just what the child wants, but maybe what the child also needs, and giving food in that manner. That's love. Not what I want to give, but what is needed by the child, and giving that as an expression of love, for example. So the Alter Rebbe asks, well, this kind of divine love, that's really powerful. How do you get there? Okay, we can understand the Rebbe Rashab, he's a Rebbe, he's a holy man. But how do you and I get there? That we could be able to renounce or set aside the human form of love, which is a needy form, to something that is what the other needs, right? So the Alter Rebbe says, well, we'll be able to do that when we pray every day, and we follow the prayer service and meditate upon it, and recognize what's going on in the prayer is resembling this idea we're speaking about, being able to set aside our agenda for God's agenda, for a divine connection to God, and a divine connection as a result to our loved ones too. By the way, this doesn't mean that you should never kiss your child. Right? Don't kiss the child because that's what you want. Oh, I love you so much. You're so cute. Who's that about? Who's that about? It's all about me saying that and feeling that in the moment, and therefore reaching out to you and I want to give you a kiss. Maybe the kid's playing right now and doesn't want your kiss. You don't care. Because if that's what the child needs now, and the child needs you to express that, that's divine. Because that's not about you. But, we need to be honest with ourselves. Are we doing it because that's what the child needs, or is that because my neediness at this moment, my desire at this moment that I want to fulfill, right? That's of course, the question over here, or the issue. So we need, a certain degree of honesty over here. So the Alter Rebbe explains, how are we going to get there? We are physical people. How can we allow that the divine love is what is infusing us divine love for God, and then that will be expressed as a higher form of love for others. So again, the prayers. For those who are familiar with the prayers, after Baruch in the prayer service, we go into, as we mentioned, the two blessings that precede the Shema. Yotze Or is the first one, is called. And if we meditate upon it and appreciate it, it speaks about angels standing at the world's summit, proclaiming the greatness of God. They're nullified in the light of God. They're pronouncing with great awe and love, declaring that God is holy, 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 kadosh, kadosh, kadosh. Right? Meaning he's holy means set apart from them. He doesn't reveal himself to them. But where does God reveal himself? So the angels say, you know where God reveals himself? To the community of Israel. Above. The souls of the Jewish people above, which is Malchus of Atzilus, the Shekhinah, above. And below here, when we do a mitzvah, or study Torah, God reveals himself. Now, there's different types of angels that we speak in this blessing. Supernal angels, the seraphim, that they're burnt in the love of God, because they are recognize and comprehend how God is removed, apart, and holy. Also the Oifanim, which are like winged angels, and the Chayes HaKodesh, the holy angels. They don't recognize so well where God's apart, but yet they don't recognize God's place, as it were, and because they're not as lofty an angel as the seraphim. They don't apprehend, but they do know that God is beyond them. Right? So that's the first. In other words, these angels, they're aware. They recognize, whether they're fully aware of the powerfulness of God, and therefore they are burnt up in that love and awe, even though God is apart, removed. But they recognize, they sense that. They're experiencing it. I'm not experiencing that. They're experiencing it. The Ophanim or lower angels are experiencing. I'm not. That's a closer place, so to speak. But what the angels even recognize, that's not where God's glory and desire is. It's down in this earth. Together, well, the community of Jewish souls above, and down here as we serve through Torah mitzvahs. Then follows the second blessing, which speaks about God's great love to the Jewish people. And what God is doing, he's setting aside that which is more naturally close to him to that which is very far removed. This physical world that is so removed that we don't sense or experience him. We don't. We try to, but we really don't. Not like the angels, right? Nonetheless, God puts that all aside, because his delight is in us down here. And that's what the words Abba So'ilam Aftanu Hashem Elokeinu. And Lord your God, you have loved us with an everlasting love. In others, the angels know what you love. It's us that you love down here, right? That the Shekhinah dwells over here. And why is that? As we mentioned in the previous class, Abba Dechekes is Abba. Abba Dechekes is a basar, rather. Love impels, squeezes the flesh. Usually love is about an embrace, right? So if the Rebbe Rashab wanted he felt the moment of love and he wanted to embrace his child and give a kiss while he was sleeping. But he compelled the flesh of that feeling He didn't allow it to be an exuberant feeling in the moment, but that was a feeling of love, holding himself back, refraining, and writing a Hasidic discourse. So God does the same thing. He, out of a love for us, contracts, conceals himself. He contracts to create a physical world, to create us as separate entities that don't experience him as the angels do above, right? And he, out of the love, then that's what it means, Avas Olam, love of the world, meaning refers to a world that is limited, that is love, that is contracting upon himself, contracting of the infinite to create the finite, so we can have this relationship with him, right? Most people think to find God, you have to go beyond the world. No. Avas Olam means the love of world, meaning the love that's found in this world that's contracted. That the infinite light is concealed of God. Not as above that they have more of an experience of that. And why does he do that? For the sake of his people, that we should be near to him and be absorbed in a oneness with him through doing a mitzvah. And that's what it continues in the second paragraph of this prayer. Exceedingly abounding compassion. A compassion that God has for us. Compassion because, think about it, we're removed. Not like the angels and the souls above that are, experiencing. They sense the closeness. God doesn't. He sets that aside. And he wants us. And then it continues in the prayer. It says, and you have chosen us amongst all the nations and tongues of the world. And here the Alter Rebbe explains, what does it mean to be chosen? So, most people think, well, we were chosen for, some people think we're chosen to suffer, right? Others say we're chosen in order to be a light unto the nations. And the Alter Rebbe says, no, chosen means, he chose actually our bodies, our material bodies. What does that mean? And here we get into a concept of the chosen people. So, chosenness means, again, remember the context over here. God is setting aside that which is more of a natural place for him, his presence in the spiritual realm, for us in this physical realm that is very much removed, very much concealed, the light. Contraction, Avas Olam, he's contracting that light. Right? Why? In order that ultimately we should come and be absorbed in his light. And so with that we can understand that chosenness is also of the physical nature of this world. And what's that? The body, the Jewish body rather than the soul. What does that mean? So let's explain what it means, chosen. So let me give an example. If I have an apple and an orange in front of me, I love apples and I'm deathly allergic to oranges. Do I have a choice of which one I'm going to eat? Not really. It's called a compelled choice. I'm compelled to eat the apple. I love it. And I'm deathly allergic to oranges. So it's not a real choice. Real choice would be when all things are equal. And I still choose this over that. So why would you choose? Well, not because compelled means the thing is compelling me. I'm not really choosing. It's choosing me almost. It's like the apple is choosing me because I love the taste of the apple. I'm not really choosing it. I'm compelled to choose it. So that's a real choice. Real choice is when you're free to choose. So free to choose means when there's an equality. Nothing unique, nothing special. But I'll take that one nonetheless. Now, to understand that in God's terms, and then maybe we can get back to our terms. And I'll actually tie it into what happened in Meron. So maybe we can perhaps an idea at least. So the body, the physical material body of a Jew versus anybody else is just a body, no difference. Yet God chooses it, and because He chooses it, views it, even the physical body, with holiness. Hence, by the way, the consequence of that, and it's not so much, it's not the discussion over here. Right here is just about the being chosen. Hence, the physical reality of a Jew needs to be imbued with holiness. Even after you die, you don't cremate the body. When you're living, you don't tattoo the body. Why? I mean, what's the big deal? Who cares? It's only body. God chose the body. Freely chose, not compelled. Nothing unique and special, but He wanted to imbue it with holiness. Where does that come from? It comes from the core essence of God. That choosing. When nothing will compel you. What does that mean in our human dimension? Where I'm compelled by nothing, and yet I choose. Like, I'll give you an example. What happened in Meron? Tragedy. I don't understand. I don't get it. And yet I choose, not because I'm compelled by reason, shall we say, but I'm not compelled by reason, rather, but I am choosing because I sense the core of my soul, a deeper part of me, that chooses to believe that God is good. And therefore, I don't forsake His goodness in this moment. Still pained by what happened. But I don't point a finger to God. God, how could you do that? I ask God, don't do it beforehand, but not after the fact. How could you do it? Same thing with the Holocaust. Beforehand, yes. I choose freely, not because I'm compelled by what I perceive, because what I perceive doesn't compel me to think that God is all good. But a deeper part in my soul, I choose to believe that it's all good. I don't understand it. I don't get it. And I'm still pained at the same time. It doesn't mean that you're not pained. Those two things are not mutually exclusive. But I still choose. Why? The deeper part of my soul that I'm attuned to, the core essence of my soul that is attached to God, and does perceive and know that God is all good. And being attuned to that, so there's nothing externally compelling me except for my internal true reality that I freely choose, not compelled. Reason would compel opposite. All random. These 45, why not another 45? The whole. And reason would say the opposite. That would compel you to think that it's just random and it's just a random occurrence, and God just wasn't there. Okay. But I choose freely. Not to be compelled by what my eyes perceive and what my mind understands or doesn't understand, right? That's a very powerful idea. I hope I brought that across well, because that's an important thing. So that's where God chooses us. The Jewish soul is unique. So it's not freely chosen, so to speak. But the body, that's different. And then we continue the second blessing, that you have brought us near and to give thanks. To proclaim your oneness and to be absorbed in your unity. This is the second blessing. Before we continue, any questions, any thoughts on this notion? Let me look on Facebook. Gotcha. Do I have any questions here? Andrew, is limited light sent to us because God's diminishment of infinite light is sent because he wanted to be closer to Israel? So have we unity with God? I'm not certain, Andrew, I have clarity on your question. Let me read it again. Is limited light sent to us? You mean the contracted light? Yes. In order to that God's be diminishment? Yes. Because he wanted us to be closer. Right, exactly. And we're going to explain with that. Absolutely. So what did God do? He set aside the worlds above that have more of an affinity to God rather than to us down here, a physical world that is a place where there's a lot of darkness, the absence of God and his presence. Why does he do that? Because all that he doesn't is not important to him. But us down here, that we will ultimately choose freely to have a relationship with him through Torah mitzvahs, of course, as we will further explain. So Andrew, Darren, is there love which is a combination of human and divine love? Good question, Darren. Well, I mean, we might have a combination. In other words, we have a combination of being needy, and we also know we're needed. So when, let's say, I experienced that, visiting, having my grandchildren. Oh, they're adorable. And you just want to give them a hug because you want to give them a hug. So I sometimes will just give them a hug because they, what I strive to is not necessarily always what I live by. But more often than not, I'll think to myself, that's what I want to do, but is that what the child needs right now? And sometimes yes. So that's where the two can converge, that, you're giving a hug is really what the child needs. So, but you're being motivated by something beyond yourself, that's divine, I suppose, of your human neediness. So it doesn't mean that you're not giving the hug to the kid, right? So in the case of the Rebbe Rashab, he didn't give the kiss at all, the physical kiss, right? At that moment, at least. Now, could he have given the physical kiss and still written? Whatever. Could you do that? Again, it's about, am I just, fulfilling my neediness as opposed to what I'm needed for from that child in that moment. So, it can still express itself in the human way of a hug, but it's not, you're sensitive to what they need. And they need it now. So you give it to them. I hope that was clear. By the way, a reminder to please put two question marks before you ask your question. So I know that it's a question, because we have a lot of comments and it's hard to. Okay, and Jay, why did Abraham prostrate before the sons of Chet while bearing in the cave of the Machpelah? Is it okay? Well, you can't prostrate yourself, but just to bow your head, so that's what it was. That's what it was. Diana, since Hashem chose the Jewish people for the body, is the convert converting the soul or the body or both? Oh, excellent. So the convert has a spark of a Jewish soul that becomes a flame of a Jewish soul, and a completely Jewish soul. It's only a spark, it's only a potential, through the process of conversion. Like the flintstone has a flame in it, but you have to rub harshly in order to get that flame, or spark rather, and rub harshly in order to get the fire coming out of that stone, flint. Right? Not the cartoon. So that's what happens. By virtue of having that soul imbued in them when they convert appropriately according to Jewish law, according to halacha, nothing else but halacha, then the convert gets also chosen their body. And that chosenness becomes expressed in how we deal with that body. Anybody on Clubhouse has a question, has a comment, has a thought? Go ahead, Batya.
Good morning, Rabbi. I just wanted to say it seems as though you got all of the questions.
Okay, thank you. Oh, let me just see if I missed something here on Instagram. No, I don't see. Whoever can share, I know now that would be amazing, please. Jay, I have to look that up then. I'm not certain. Good question. Tzarachian, as we say, it needs I need to look into it. But it's a good question. If I don't promise I will have the time, but it is a good question, because it's, as it says that Abraham prostrated himself. Okay, so we need to look into that. I know now